Hey guys, and welcome back to another Conan Exiles video. Today we are on the Isle of Siptah building a Roman fort. The requirements for this build are on screen now. It's a fairly simple design and should fit anywhere in any map really, though it does require knowledge and use of pillar displacement. So without further ado, let's get started. Firstly, I started off with part of the base plate, namely the base plate for the exterior walls. I used ceilings held up by pillars underneath, and I then covered the gaps below with Nemedian walls to begin on that exterior defensive wall. Once the base plate was covered, I built part of those exterior walls up. They'll sit 2 tiles high, and then I'll pull them in by a tile on the exterior after the mini gatehouse area. I then used Nemedian ramps to smooth the base plate and the walls together. This is pretty simple and works quite well, and works as a good substitute for the Inspiration, which has very gently sloping walls. Atop those walls, I built up that small gatehouse and covered the top of the walls with Nemedian ceilings. I also added stairs to the gatehouse and crenellated walls onto the gatehouse and the walls themselves. This build is actually inspired by 2 designs I found, the first from a game called 0 AD, and the second from a reconstructed Roman fort in South Shields, which is in the northeast of England. I'm aiming to combine the 2 designs together with a bit of creative license to make it all mesh. From there it was time to move on to the main base within. This is the somewhat difficult part, as you have to do the pillar trick to get the ceilings off the usual grid, yet have them sit right against the other ceilings. The best way to do this is to bring a tile out of the wall, displace the pillar once, and then build the attaching 3x3. Do that on the other side too, and you've got the main segments in place. From there we can do the pillar trick to get the central ceilings off grid, and you're pretty much good from there. Just make sure you don't do the same mistake that I always do, in that you need to support them with pillars before you remove any displaced pillars. It's very frustrating if you accidentally collapse and then have to remake again your off-grid base plate. From there, I built walls around the 3x3 segment and sectioned off a 3x1 segment at the front for the entrance. After that was done, I then continued on with the base plate, following the blueprint I showed you earlier. This can be a touch confusing if you're not used to pillar displaced ceilings, but it is fairly easy to get a hold of. From there, I began to build up the walls around the interior keep. I'm building 2 tiles high, and things are pretty simple overall. The walls can get a little buggy sometimes when they're next to off-grid walls, but I found the best way to fix that was to remove the wall underneath and rebuild that segment, a fairly quick fix. I also built the front towers 4 tiles high, and placed a door frame in the centre to access the front walls. I also recessed 2 archways at the back to mirror the gatehouse design of the South Shields Roman fort. Once the ground floor walls were done, I used Nemedian ceilings to close this floor off, keeping the front towers open for staircases. From there I built the walls up again. I went one tile high and then used inverted Nemedian awnings to create some nice archways between the front towers. I fenced them off and then went back to the walls, building them up 2 tiles high. From there I had to pillar trick the towers. I placed a central pillar and a layer of ceilings 1 tile beneath where I want the roof to sit. I then did the pillar trick on top of those ceilings and ran that new pillar all the way down to the ground. I then removed the central pillar and the layer of walls, placed an off-grid square of ceilings and a 2x2 of walls atop those ceilings, and then replaced the walls I removed earlier, and then used Argossean roof pieces to finish that roof. I then did exactly the same on the other tower. Back to the first floor of the keep, I built open gable roofs over the back towers, which again I borrowed from the South Shields design. I then added a 1 tile perimeter of ceilings to hold rooftop pieces, and raised walls on the interior to raise the roof 1 more tile. From there I created a 3-way intersecting open gable design. This looks fairly complicated because of all the things in the way, but it wasn't too bad overall, and ends up working nicely to finish off the fort. Another option, however, is a flat roof. I think that would work quite well, especially with crenellated walls. Lastly, to clean up the more flat areas, I added some buttresses very sparingly on the exterior to break any ugly segments of the walls. Finally, when the shell of the build was done, it was then time to of course furnish. I've decorated the build in a similar spirit to the inspiration screenshot from 0 AD, using curtains as a sort of banner-like decoration which, I'm actually surprised, worked very well. I also added some flags for decoration, but I kept things rather simple. I want the build to speak for itself and shine in the architecture rather than in abundant decoration. I've designed this build for a small fighting force, so you'll find a small smithy in the courtyard where weapons can be repaired and forged, though there's no real capability of quantity here. There's also a well for, of course, fresh drinking water. Inside the keep, things are warm and luxurious, though still keeping the rough and rustic edge. The main room is a sort of dining area mess hall of sorts, complete with plenty of room for soldiers, a large statue, and more curtains and banners to build on the atmosphere. In the left side corridor is a small passage to the kitchen. It's a very small and tight area, though makes good use of its space. You'll find flagons, plates, food and an oven, alongside plentiful overhead storage for non-perishable goods. In the right side corridor, another small passage leads to a mini armoury. Here weapons and armours are kept safe, ready for when they're needed. Shields, swords, maces, hammers, everything you need is right here. The front towers are staircase towers for the first floor and the exterior walls, but also a guard position. A slit window on the ground allows for scouting the flanks of the fort, and the longbows mounted on the wall can deter any pesky beasts or bandits. You'll also find some storage here too, both on the ground and overhead. This design is mirrored in both towers. Upstairs are the sleeping quarters where soldiers can rest. There's a good amount of beds tucked away behind the lattice walls, and some seating for guards to have a morning drink before manning the walls or heading out to gather food. Things are a bit tight up here, but I think the area overall works well. Through the door in the centre of this floor you can reach the balcony. This space serves as both an interior guard post and a comfortable rest area. The staircase towers, as I mentioned earlier, also allow quick access to the fortified walls for fast and easy response to any threats. And there we have it, a Roman fort on the Isle of Siptah. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. I've been wanting to build a Roman fort for a little while now, and I've played around with a few different designs. None of them have really quite hit the mark, but I think this one has managed to meet the ideas I had quite well. I do hope you all enjoyed it. Again, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.